Sarah Purcell returns for her second straight honorary luncheon. She was here for our honoring Regis Philbin, having hosted AM Los Angeles with Regis. She also hosted a game show, The Better Sex. Sarah here is here today because she hosted one of George Schlatter's most successful primetime shows, Real People, in the late 70s and early 80s. After Real People, Sarah hosted America and The Home Show with Gary Collins. She also hosted several Macy's Thanksgiving Day parades and the Battle of Network Stars. Sarah co-founded the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of LA's Future Fund, which is their scholarship fund. Ladies and gentlemen, we love having her here, the incomparable Sarah Purcell.
Woo, thank you. Thank you. How very nice. George, focus! That was a little ruse that George used when we were trying to rehearse just 1 minute of scripted material, just trying to get us to simmer down. And there is so much to talk about with regard to George. And they told me I've got to talk fast because I only have 45 minutes. Network executives gave George a hard time. They messed with his brand of not just groundbreaking, but seismic comedy. Comedy that Time magazine wrote about. Comedy that pushed the envelope so far it turned inside out. Well, I was able to raid George's files. And I found one notable letter that he wrote to the unsuspecting suits on the top floors of ABC. The poor heads of standards and practices would try to keep up with his controversial and topical jokes to just try to make them fit into the notebook that they hadn't even updated since 1952. So I have this letter that he responded to one of those suits that wrote a letter with regard to one of his specials. So this is a real letter. It says George Schlatter Productions right up here at the top. And it's dated February 17th, 1976. It's to Ms. Dorothy Pecora, Department of Broadcast Standards and Practices, American Broadcasting Company, 2040 Avenue of the Stars, Century City, regarding John Denver and Friend. Remember this one, George? Dear Ms. Pecora, I just received a disturbing memorandum from you pertaining to Mr. Sinatra's use of the word bird and its lack of acceptability on your network. Please be reasonable. Everyone knows of Mr. Sinatra, and almost everyone is familiar with his bird. We are all aware of his fanatical but nonetheless justifiable pride in this little creature, and I am certain that he will be extremely upset if this deletion is made. The segment was a tribute to Mr. Sinatra, and I feel it is unimaginable to salute Frank and not also recognize his bird. Therefore, I respectfully request that you, what is this? I got to get my glasses on. You reconsider your demand or face the prospect of getting to know Jilly Rizzo much more intimately than you could imagine, because, you know, Jilly's bird has been trained to attack. Respectfully, George Schlatter. So that's just one of the many letters that George wrote. But remember, George, each week on Real People, we met for a table read at 10 a.m. Since most of the show was pre-taped pieces, we only had about 14 minutes of live material to read through. Those Monday morning table reads were the best part of my week. George and 7 comedians, Mr. Willard here being one of them, sitting around a table, trading stories about our prior week's shoots. It was hilarious. We'd laugh for 3 hours just trying to get through that 14 minutes of material. Breakfast was brought in, and then lunch. And George paid for it, too. Remember that, George? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm always asked about my favorite real people story. Each assignment was special in its own way, but this one George told me was going to be really special because he was saving it just for me. I wasn't to talk about it with the guys because they'd be upset that I got this one. This was just for me, you said, because you knew I could handle it. I'd get a new wardrobe. It'll be great. And it'll make up for some of those other shoots like Death Valley in July. Okay, it was a Colorado River cruise with a 70-something-year-old woman. At that time, I thought 70 was old. The name of her company was the River Rats. Should have been my first clue. So I arrive in my white linen suit, ready to do my best Barbara Walters interview with my suitcase full of cruise attire. When I got there, I'm looking for a beautiful yacht on the Colorado River. There was no yacht. There was no boat. Just 6 rafts tied together for the trip down the river. It's 120 degrees, no breeze. I'm wilting by the second. They gave me water to drink and said, "It's safe, we purified it." The erosion into the Colorado River turns the water a rusty brown. This was the promised cruise that George gave me. I was ready to kill you. But there were no cell phones back then, so I couldn't even call you, much less kill you. Anyway, then I got to meet the other river rafters. Some were standing, but most were sick and on their backs. They explained that they were 6 hours into an E. coli outbreak. Being the city girl, I had no idea what they were talking about. By the way, ignorance is not bliss. I asked if it was contagious, and he said, "Oh, no problem." And an hour later, it became apparent what E. coli was all about. It was time for me to be flattened. They comforted me by saying, "Oh, you'll feel better in about 8 hours. Just drink a lot of water." Drink a lot of water? Isn't that what made me sick in the first place? And where was this water supposed to go after I drink it? Anyway, that's how you get E. coli. The next day, when I was still deathly ill, they called for a medevac helicopter to pick me up at the top of a ridge. The only problem was I had to climb the ridge, and in my condition, it looked like Mount Everest. I was finally able to crawl to the top, still wearing the once white suit, covered in red dirt, white circles around my eyes, hair matted with red clay, red dirt even between my teeth. I never got to properly thank you, George, for that lovely cruise, and I'm so glad you didn't tell the guys about that one. All kidding aside, George, working with you has literally been a dream come true. I am beyond grateful for the chance to work with you and have just a glimpse of your genius. The stories go on, and this is just one episode of all the episodes of all the shows, all the specials, everything that he's done. And so now, at the risk of being nice, I know how you hate nice. I'm going to take another bit of your advice, which is get on, get off, and don't get any on ya.
Thanks for joining us. You know, I can already feel the excitement building for our next Hollywood Media Professional Celebrity Showcase.